the dark, I played my dreams. Permaculture flows like sweet streams. I'm the daddy with the know-how seed. Creating the world like it's meant to be. Permaculture, P-I-M-P, I'm the king. That's love in everything. Bringing change, making it last. Join the permaculture.
Welcome to episode 386 of the Permaculture Pimpcast, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. The only Pimpcast on planet Earth where we discuss permaculture, preparedness, and practical living.
Permaculture, P-I-M-P, with soulful rays. In the Pimpcast, where we find our place.
Oh, good to be here with y'all. Okay, yeah. I want to thank everybody that's in the house right now. If you're in the house, because Lord knows they are suppressing the living daylights out of us. But anyway, this episode is brought to you, as always, by Hickory Ridge Soap from twooldcrowshomestead.com.
Turn that simp into a pimp.
Bam! EMF rocks. 10% off with promo code PERMA. Hey, son, I don't know what your mom was thinking, but she sent it to our house instead of yours, so you would have been getting it today. I opened it up, and I'm like, man, I don't remember ordering anything else. And sure enough, everything that we were ordering for you guys ended up here. So it'll be on the first thing smoking your way. And man, I really, and you know, I feel kind of halfway naked right now because the one that you wear on your person, I actually left down there. I got grounding mats all over this house that are independently grounded. And then from time to time, you want to ground these things, kind of let them, you know, reboot and do what they do. And I took mine out of my pocket. I left it down there. I always have it. Everything I wear always has cargo pockets. And I left it down there on the grounding mat, but I'm not about to go cut the show because I didn't realize it till I got up here. So anyway, it is what it is, and 10% off with promo code PERMA. All right, so we're going to jump right into it. My goodness, man, what is going on today, man? Just weird stuff all the way around, man. I know, man, I don't even know where to start, man. You know, ripples in the clouds, all the crazy things in the world that's going on right now. Anyway, I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole. I'm just saying things are crazy and weird. And folks, if anybody else is out there getting covered up with these trails the way we are, let me know in the chat, because sometimes you just feel isolated. Like, man, am I the only one seeing this? Now, I'm not giving a whole lot of credit to the people around here, man, because they just, they will not see it. There is no amount of evidence that can make them see this. And I'm just wondering if it's the same way for a lot of you folks out there too. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to some of the folks in the chat here. Hey, Alabama. Mountain Readiness. Yeah, my boy T over at Mountain Readiness, which, by the way, folks, I'll come to this here in a minute. He got a little bit of suppression. I want to say it was Monday night when he had Jeff Adam from My Chronic Silver on his show. So I don't know if he has a backup channel, but folks, when I say the suppression is legit, man, it is legit. And like I said, I'll talk more about that in a minute. But yeah, Mountain Readiness, we're partnered up with them for that Sovereign Health Summit that's going to be kicking on October 27th through the 31st in Harmony, North Carolina, folks. Promo code TPC will get you 5% off. So we can't make it any lower, folks. This thing is already as low as we can possibly go. So there ain't going to be any Black Friday sales or anything like that, because all the value is already included. And plus, if you want to live stream it, we're going to have that. We have that option as well. So go over there, get your tickets, get squared away. Steve's in the house.
Hey, speaking of the Sovereign Health Summit, if people are wanting to volunteer for that, how do they go about? I got a couple of emails asking about doing the volunteer stuff. How do they sign up for it? How do they know what they're going to do? Where's the information for that and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. We did talk about it the other day, and I'll let y'all know probably next broadcast, and we'll hopefully have some answers for you. But we're, you know, there's a whole lot of moving parts when you're moving like a ocean liner like this. So we'll get you some answers on that, but we are going to need a number of volunteers as well. But if y'all want to support the cause, look, if you break bread, we won't fake dead. So go out there, get your tickets, because not everybody can volunteer. And the online version, man, it's going to be a powerhouse. It's going to be something else. So Tammy, hope it's not Tommy I'm reading there because these glasses. Oldman, Grammys, weeds.
You want me to read it, Dad?
Well, I was just going to kind of, just yell at the top ones that are right there, the first ones I'm saying.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll just jump right into the farm news. Okay. Yeah, so I was out there getting wood today, and man, I don't know what I've been so darn busy that I forgot to get wood for winter. And when I say forgot to get it, I mean, it's down there, that pile that William cut a couple of years ago, it's still there. And we're still whittling away at it, but usually we take it and it graduates over to the defunct greenhouse, I guess I could call it, which was a pretty good way of taking a greenhouse that didn't really serve much of a good function. So you kind of have it graduate over there, and this stuff dries in record time, y'all. It's like a solar kiln. I'm dead serious. So if you have a greenhouse that ain't doing the trick, or you got spare room in there, you might consider doing that. So it'll dry that wood out in record time.
Well, that's what Joel Salatin does to dry out some of his milled lumber and everything, like his red oak lumber. He'll put it in one of the greenhouses, and then he'll cover it with a black tarp, so that way it doesn't get sun bleached or anything like that. And then he uses that to dry it even faster.
Yeah, it gets done in record time. So I'm playing a little catch up on that right now, because we'll have this heater essentially going from now until spring. I mean, that's for the most part. I mean, there'll be some days when let me not speak ahead of myself. Son, are you getting any sunlight out there?
Oh, absolutely not. No, we haven't had sun. Well, we had like a couple of days earlier this week, I think, of sun. But the majority, like the past 30 days, we probably had 2 days full of sun. Like even the days where they forecast, like, oh yeah, you guys are gonna have clear skies, sunny days, and stuff like that. It's still mostly hazy, mostly cloudy. What keeps coming to mind is that news broadcaster talking about the 15 new cloud formations. It just keeps coming to mind, the 15 new cloud formations that the world is now accepting. And she said her favorite new cloud formation was the exact one of the waves, the ripples in the sky. Like, that's your favorite one? Really? You have no idea what that means? I'm
looking up here at Moguls practically every single day here. I mean, and today was forecasted to be blue skies all day. It was forecasted that yesterday evening. And then I get up today and then they said it was partly cloudy. Then I checked my phone a little bit later and now it's all cloudy. I'm like, those are not real clouds. But good luck getting anybody to. In fact, T sent me a text earlier with what's going on down there in Florida right now, just storms popping up out of nowhere. And folks, honestly, I'm going to get a little dark here, but don't worry, I'll bring it back around. I'm not going to stay there. I really believe that this country is so snooky stupid at this point that only starvation can cure this level of apathy. I really believe that. And folks, you're definitely going to want to, I'm kind of batting around the idea of what I want to do for my front porch talk this Sunday. Now, we got December 7th coming up, and I'm thinking about how to tie that, what they call the greatest generation, which I have a little bit of disagreement on that. We're going to take a little walk down history lane. I'm just trying to format it in my mind exactly how I want to go about it. And I'm going to compare that generation. I think, don't hold me to it. I'm going to compare them with the baby boomer generation that they produced. Because honestly, of all the generations out there, now there are some, and there are a number of you, I'm not throwing a wide blanket out here and covering everybody, but for some reason, man, I don't know what it is with that generation, but they, by and large, I would say 85, maybe 90% of them will not see anything. There is no, I know you didn't grow up with these chemtrails. I know because I'm your child and I didn't see them when I was little. And now you just cannot get them no matter how much evidence you present. So anyway, I'm batting around what I'm going to do with that. Don't worry, I'll have something worked out. If nothing else, you'll just get it right from the top of my cabeza. All right, so other things. So ways I combat that, I've talked about it recently. I'm using my Spurdy sun lamp. And I'm spending more time in that thing than I would like to. I would much rather be outside, but I'm monitoring my vitamin D uptake. And folks, if your vitamin D ain't cool, I got to be careful about this because this is the kind of stuff that they'll kick you off for. So I'm just saying I'm monitoring my vitamin D, and I'm doing the very best I can to keep it as high as possible, especially through these winter months. So anyway, other things we got going on out here. We picked a bunch of apples from the orchard down in, man, I talked about them before. Those, son, did we ever give y'all any of those Ludacris apples?
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about it on here too.
Yeah,
those
man.
are amazing.
Well, I sat here last night and I was like, man, I got to do something with them because the shelf life on these guys is not like it is on an Evercrisp. You have, I mean, an Evercrisp, one of its great virtues is not only great flavor all the way around, great tartness. I'm something of an apple connoisseur if you haven't yet noticed. But anyway, the Evercrisp is fantastic in every way imaginable, and it stores for quite a while. This Ludacrisp does not have that virtue.
No.
So I had it in the freezer, not in the freezer, but in the fridge out there. I go out there to go replenish my little apple supply in the kitchen because I am quite literally eating an apple a day. I get out there and I'm like, oh man, these things are going soft, man. What is going on here? And the flavor was still great. So I said, okay, I'm going to freeze dry a bunch of these apples. So that's exactly what we did. So if you need a Harvest Right freeze dryer, we got a link down below. Pretty handy for stuff like that. But as I'm freeze drying, the small pieces, I'm not, dude, while I sat up here and did 10 trays for the freeze dryer, I think I ate the equivalent of about 5 apples doing it.
Yeah,
And
I believe it.
I'm dead serious. I ate 5 apples, I bet. I was like, man, and then but when I caught myself, I wasn't even done. I was like, man, hold on, dude. How much am I eating here? Yeah, so anyway, folks, trust me. There's a whole lot of fiber. One apple's enough fiber for one day. I'll just put it this way, y'all. I was clogged up like the Lincoln Tunnel at rush hour. That's a whole lot of fiber to be trying to process. So anyway, it is what it is. So I just want to give a cautionary tale out there. So I'm going to go off the script a little bit here. If anybody wants to see it, I highly recommend you do it. It's I don't like the guy personally. I like the guests he gets on the podcast. I just don't like his interview style. Guy named Danny Jones. And son, I don't know if you saw it, but he had the first ever debate between a Apollo astronaut, one of the last guys that landed on the moon, up against Bart Sabrell, who did the A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon documentary.
Right.
Where he basically proves that it never happened in his view. Man, folks, I'm not going to give you all the cliff notes here, but it goes on. It's about a 3-hour podcast, but I was absolutely captivated. This was the most one-sided butt whooping of a debate I ever heard in my life.
See, with Bart Sabrell, it's entirely possible he lost the debate. Whenever you say like it was a 3-hour debate and it was one-sided, I'm still, even though like I understand that we didn't go to the moon or anything like that, but Bart Sabrell, I think he's reached a point where he's tired of saying the same information over and over again. Like I've heard him in other interviews where he's just like, he constantly just says, well, go look at my website, go look at the book. And he doesn't come prepared to the interview. So when you say it's one-sided, I'm still questioning who won the debate.
Well, I'll put it this way. He did his homework for this one.
Okay.
He did his homework, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. You can't constantly reference people back to your website in the middle of a debate.
Yeah.
But man, he brought the goods this time. And folks, and honestly, these are the same. Okay, going back to the baby boomers, which I'm going to be a little bit critical of. But like I said, there are some baby boomers are wide awake in the biggest way possible, or they are so far down Plato's cave. I don't know what there's no getting them out of it. But that goes for every generation as well. I mean, it's the same in mine. But I think by far and away, you see the greatest population of the people that just don't care in the baby boomer generation. And I'm not trying to pick on that generation. I'm just, anyway, technically that guy he was debating would have been part of the greatest generation. This was the most, if you still believe the moon landing hoax after listening to this, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. So that was one thing I saw on YouTube. And folks, I recommend you watch it after you listen to the podcast. But also, there was another thing that popped up too. And son, I'm just going to go off script again here. Mm-hmm. Some people I was doing I had a video call yesterday, business call, and they brought up Justin Rhodes' last video. Now, folks, I usually never bring his name up here. I don't like Justin Rhodes. He doesn't like me. And I've been very public. I mean, I guess when I offered to do a MMA match with this guy and that we donate all the money to proceeds to Vets for Child Rescue or Caleb House, you know, it kind of lets you know how I feel about the man. But he put out a latest. It was not his latest, but I guess the one before then. I never watched the guy. Oops, sorry, y'all hit the mic. I never watched the guy, and you know, they mentioned this thing, so I went ahead and watched it. And he was, by looking at the thumbnail, you think, okay, he's giving up YouTube. And I thought, okay, I'll go ahead and watch this. And honestly, man, if you read the comments to this video, he's basically, you know, complaining about this and that. And I'm reading the comments, man, they crucify this dude.
Yeah.
Comments like, no wonder, dude. I mean, you're doing this clickbait stuff, and the video itself was clickbait because he wasn't giving up YouTube. You think by the caption there, you think he's, you know, getting off of YouTube. That's not at all what he did. And this is exactly the stuff that people are hating right now. And there's a number of other YouTubers, especially in the homestead space, that still engage in that sort of thing. But it gets people, you know, people have limited time. And you sit here and put up a thumbnail of a video, and the video that you're watching has nothing to do with what they just put up. You're going to get sick of that after a while. And so he's complaining about people, you know, YouTube. But, you know, to his defense, you know, he is telling the truth in that. But I got a different take on it. And I won't bring their names up here because I didn't ask them to. But right after Trump got in, I talked to a number of other people that do YouTube, especially in the homestead space. They all saw the same exact phenomenon I did. As soon as Trump got in, what happened, son?
The homesteading world kind of collapsed. It just kind of fell apart. People stopped. I mean, it's the same thing every time a Republican gets in office. Everybody quits homesteading. Everybody's like, feels safe now. Like, oh, thankfully America's saved now. We're all good to go. And then they just quit homesteading. It's frustrating, especially like whenever you know Obama and Biden were some of the best things for my business. Yeah. Everybody's wondering like, man, how do I grow some doggone food? But even with that, there's still serious people within the homesteading realm, within the growing realm and things like that. Like there's still people wanting consultations and all that type of stuff and wanting to know how to grow their own food. And I think people are turning back to the homesteading because I think some people still remember like what happened just a couple of years ago, the Big C and everything like that. I think there's still a remnant of those people who went through that and refused to go back to the system and whatnot. But as you were.
Well, the thing is that, you know, number one, they're unsubscribing a lot of people from some of us. I mean, from us, yeah, we're giving them all the reasons in the world because we're speaking out against the powers that shouldn't be. Of course, Justin Rhodes ain't never going to do anything like that. But, you know, he was what he hasn't realized and what a number of others haven't yet realized. And I talked to a number of these guys and gals, not him personally, but, you know, a number of people in this space is real truth of it is I've been seeing this for 25 years, y'all. Every single time a Republican's in office, everybody acquiesces. I mean, I started in the preparedness space. Everybody goes right back in the matrix every single time. And as soon as the Democrat gets in there, as if there's a dime's worth of difference between any of them. And that's what I just can't understand. So yeah, Joel was right at first about the homesteading tsunami, but now it's just a tide. It's no longer a tsunami. Everybody has gone back, not everybody, but a number of people have gone back into the matrix. Not that Justin was doing it. I mean, every other video, I couldn't bear to watch the dude, man. Every other video he's crying or talking about, you know, for a guy that talks about healthcare all the time, it sure seems to every time you turn around, he's got another sickness going on. So,
now, and another issue with him that I encounter whenever I go and do consultations is a lot of the time, I know why a lot of people are unsubscribing or stopped watching his videos, and it was kind of it gets communicated quite often through videos, is that through consultations, as people get further into, like, he's good for like introducing the topic to you, but as people learn more and more, they realize like, oh, he doesn't really have the best information, or he doesn't even have like accurate information. He's just chasing what gets views. And then they start, like, literally just the consultation I did yesterday, she told me how she started watching like a bunch of people at first, and then she's narrowed it down to literally 4 different YouTube channels that she watches for information. So it is good for like introducing people to the topic, but once they realize, like, oh, this dude doesn't have any information, like he's not doing anything that I can apply to my own homestead, or what I did apply from him didn't work on my homestead, then they stop watching. A lot of the consultations I go through, like, is unlearning what they learn from his channel or similar channels.
Yeah, it could be that. And then, they don't necessarily give you enough. I understand, the place of trying to figure out I never had to figure out what kind of content I was ever going to do. Right now, I'm just so busy. I haven't had a chance to do any real farm content. And I hope to get back to that soon. Front Porch Talks, I can go out there and speak extemporaneously and get some things off my chest. And, a lot of times it resonates with people. And depending on the nature of the topic, they suppress the living daylights out of it. But I'm doing it with the expectation that the right people are going to find it. But now, you know what? I mean, in his case, yeah, there's a whole lot of skullduggery going on. I don't know if that's the case with him. But, hey, dude, maybe stop crying in every other video, or maybe not stop complaining about every other ailment you got. Dude, I'm 10 years older than you, and I can still put you through a 5-minute flurry of fists. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it's clear I don't really like the guy, haven't liked him. And he's the first so-called permaculture designer that didn't know what the third ethic of permaculture is. So there's some other things there, but I'm not going to get into all that. Anyway, son, let me kick it on over to you.
Farm News just did a consultation yesterday. It has been just crappy outside. It's like the fake rain, where it's not really like coming down as like rain. It's just like this drip. That's what we're getting right now, is like this cold, wet drip. But I keep planning, like each day I keep planning to dig up my moringa, because I keep thinking it's about to die. It's still growing. We've had multiple below freezing nights, and now the water's freezing overnight, and it's still growing. I'm just, every time I go out there and like check on it, I'm like, oh man, all my moringa is going to be dead. I waited too long, and it still keeps doing just fine. We had a couple nights in the 20s, perfectly fine. And then the garden as well. I mean, it's the only pest that I've had in the garden has been the backdoor neighbor's rabbit, that they were going to do 4-H rabbits, and then they realized, like, oh, I need like 2 males and 2 females or something like that, and they didn't have the right numbers, and I think they had too many females and 1 buck, and so they let them loose in the neighborhood. So one of the rabbits got to some of my cabbage, and that's really the only pest damage that we've had to that. Still no frost issues over there. And then I think I'd also discovered another little microclimate in that area back there, because I have one moringa that's like kind of tucked under the canopy of another tree, and it's doing just fine too. So I wonder if I have like a microclimate that I didn't account for, like a warmer microclimate that I didn't account for over there as well. But yeah, just getting computer work done, trying to keep up with 75 hard. I'm on day 4 today. And yeah, the outdoor workout today sucked. It was just cold and wet and sloppy.
Yeah, and the kind of cold you get there, man, and people don't understand. I was colder in Texas than I ever was in Alaska in the dead of winter.
Yeah.
I mean, I was up there one time when it was 70 below, and I was warmer in Alaska just because it's so dry. But down there, man, that humidity just cuts right through you, no matter how many clothes you got on. So yeah, I can feel the pain. Yeah, by the way, if anybody does have, it just occurred to me, if Justin Rhodes wants to go out there and make himself relevant again, if he feels like that's what he ought to do, look, the offer still stands. I'd be happy to do another MMA. I'm challenging him publicly to another MMA bout, and winner take all.
No, Pat Miletich will ref.
Yeah, we'll get Pat Miletich is a friend of mine, so we'll go till somebody's unconscious. And
no cap, Dad.
What's that?
Did you say no cap?
No tap. No tap.
No
we do it
tap.
till somebody's unconscious. That's how we do it. We're going to raise all kinds of money for vets, for Caleb House. So we're going to go till somebody's unconscious, and it ain't going to be me. And I'm 10 years older than you, Jack. So yeah, I'm putting it out there for everybody. We can raise all kinds of money. You can put it on your channel. I won't put it on mine. and all the proceeds go to Caleb House. We go rescue some kids. You're just going to walk around. Look, there ain't enough steaks in Kansas City to cover your eyes with what I'm done with you, Jack. And then
What if he starts crying?
No, I mean, I'm saying this in jest, but honestly, I'm dead serious. If he ever wants to do it, yeah, we could raise a lot of money for a worthwhile cause. I mean, I can't say too much about it because it's another one of them things they'll definitely cut off the feed for. So if you want to raise money for kids, here's your opportunity. Like I said, you could even put it, boy, it wouldn't even have to be clickbait, but
You wouldn't even have to fake cry for the thumbnail.
yeah, they even kick it up. We'll have former UFC world champion, Hall of Famer Pat Miletich do the reffing. I'm sure I could get him to do it. Just gonna be dressing like this on the floor, son. He's just gonna be out.
What's the undercard? We need an undercard.
Okay, we can have your mom fight his wife. So, the undercard could be your mom. Your mom fighting Rebecca. And
who am I going to fight? I want to fight. I want to get in on this.
Okay, so I guess I don't know if his kids are old enough, so you'd have to take on 2 or 3 of them.
All of
And you look like Kramer on Seinfeld, man, when you're in that karate dojo beating up all these. You're bragging about being number 1 in your class, and you beat up a bunch of, second graders and stuff. So, yeah, if anybody has a way to get a hold of him, yeah, let him know the offer's out there. I'm sure this will get to him. But like I said, yeah, we go until somebody's unconscious. Anyway, Necro Kitty, I can't cover too much of this, but believe it or not, I'm actually working on this. She said, by the way, Grok tried to I gotta edit what you wrote here. Basically try to do harm to you by telling you alpha camels have no alpha gal carbs in them. And yeah, there's a whole lot of people, some of them I know, that are dealing with this. And folks, just look up where you ain't going to find this on, in any kind of search engine, but look where Lyme's disease came from. I'll bet you $1 to donuts that this alpha gal came from the same people that brought you that. And believe it or not, it's our government.
Here you go. This I've been told, obviously you're watching, but for those of you guys listening, it's a watch. I'll just leave it at this. Check it out.
Yeah, so Wave Watch, you might want to check into that. But also, I'm looking into other. There's some people saying, and I can't confirm it, that maybe you might want to look into some acupuncture. There was, I'm not going to go in a whole lot of detail here because anything that actually helps anybody on here, they anybody that tries to talk about any real solutions here, it just ain't going to happen. So, they'll go ahead and get the feed.
Necro Kitty, where'd you find camel meat? Where on earth did you find that?
I was going to ask that question, but I'm like, man, I'll eat anything. I never had. Well, actually, I did have camel before. I had it in the Middle East. They made burgers out of it one time, and it tasted like soy, man. We ate. It was at a place in Doha, in Kuwait, and there was some stab and jab named Uncle Frosty's. Did I ever tell you that story about the guy cutting his toenails on a paper plate that was cooking?
Yeah, and you also told me about the 2 things you weren't supposed to do that you were doing there with the A-OK and then the raising the bottom of your foot at everybody.
Yeah, so all my guys went through the line, and when your soldiers eat first and then you eat last as a leader. So I'm the last going through there, but man, we're waiting in line. There's this Bedouin dude back there clipping his toenails on a paper plate in the kitchen. I mean, he's right there. I mean, he's got like fries that are already cooked and got these burgers all stacked up, and they told us right off the bat they were camel. And we had been eating MREs for months, man. So we were like, man, we'll eat anything. This dude's in there clipping his toenails right there in the kitchen. He's got his foot on the paper plate, and he's in there clipping his toenails. And then so he sees us in line. He jumps up, doesn't go to the sink and wash his hands or nothing. Goes right over there and put on like the little plastic glove things, but it just didn't seem adequate. But man, nobody was caring at that point. So all my guys go through, and then I get up there, and then he gets one of them camel burgers, puts it on the plate along with the bun. That thing was That thing was as hard as woodpecker lips, man. That bun that he put on, I don't know how long them buns have been sitting, but we had made anything at that point. And then he looks over and he says, fries, meaning, French fries or whatever. And I do that. I did the one thing I don't think I've ever done in my life. I did the A-OK sign with my left hand, which in his culture meant you're giving them the eye of Satan. That's what that A-OK sign means to those guys. And I was doing it with my left hand, which was, like a massive, I didn't even think about it. I'll be honest with you. I'm a practical joker, but man, I didn't do it. I didn't do it to mess with him. And then he threw my tray down.
Funny.
Huh?
That's what makes it funny. Is all this is innocent.
No, I really didn't even mean to do it. And he threw my tray down right there in front of me, and he started saying something. And I was like, man, what on earth? I don't even know how to process what just happened. And somebody said, Sergeant Bond, you just gave him the eye of Satan with your left hand. And I was like, oh, man. And then like a complete dummy, I did it again. I said, man, hey, I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean to do this. And then he just storms out of the kitchen, man. I was like, boy, thank God this guy wasn't a jihadi, because there'd have been camel meat all over everybody, man. We'd have been camel meat. So, yeah, anyway, that's my story of, man, how I created an international incident over a freaking camel burger and fries. Yeah, anyway, that was the first time I ever drank coffee too, by the way. I'll have to tell that story one time, and I thought my heart was going to pop out of my chest.
Yeah, you didn't drink coffee. You drank Turkish coffee.
Yeah, by the way, folks, if you never had coffee in your life, don't ever. They hand you Turkish coffee, and it comes in a little cup, and you think they're trying to rip you off and say, no, fill up the big one, like a regular coffee cup. And then you take a big swig of this stuff once it cools off, and you feel like your heart's going to pop plumb out of your chest. Don't do it. Trust me. I can tell you from experience. Man, I don't even know how I got onto this, man. I was talking about throwing a beating on Justin Rhodes, and now this. Anyway, EMP Shield, $50 off with promo code PERMA. Yeah, I've been a journeyman electrician for a long, long time. Go out there, get whatever you need. Remember, the biggest threat to your home is going to be lightning. And that's exactly where EMP Shield comes in. Also, they make them for your cars, your SUVs, your solar. You name it. They got it for everything. And folks, like I said, that's exactly what I use. $50 off with promo code PERMA. And then Richardson Nutritional Center, got a link for all these guys down below, 10% off with promo code PERMA. All right, so let me see. There was a couple of people in here, I guess, that were Chris White says, Justin Rhodes doesn't need or want your challenges. Sorry, Billy. Well, I guess you're a Justin Rhodes fan. Okay. Like I said, all this is in good fun. If Justin wants to, like I said, if he wants to raise money for a good cause, I'm happy to do it. And no, I don't like the guy, so I'll just say that again. And he doesn't like me, for the record. So anyway, we can go out there, put on a beating. Well, anyway, if anybody knows the guy, let him know. We'll go out there, raise a whole lot of money. So let's talk about some good news here. Pentagon servers communication with Germany military. Pentagon severs communication with German military as NATO tensions rise. So check this out, y'all. It goes all the way back to World War I. I won't give you all the history, but this article is not going to tell you about this history. There are numerous times throughout history, and this is what you call occulted history, meaning you're never going to find it in the mainstream textbooks. But there have been numerous times that all throughout Europe and a lot of places in the world where the citizens start to get a little bit uppity, where the royalty, especially, prior to World War I, they were like, okay, they were all cousins over there, even all the way up there until the Bolshevik Revolution. They were all cousins under Queen Victoria, y'all. It's a pretty crazy history. But from time to time, they would create wars with one another just to thin the herd, if you know what I'm talking about. Whenever they had too much going on, they couldn't feed the people, whatever the case was, the only way the best way, in their view, Anthony Sutton has written, just definitive work on a lot of this stuff. They would thin the herd is by creating war. Well, the same exact thing is going on right now. Go back, look at the history of World War I. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what that was, folks. Go to the World War I History Museum in Kansas City, and you're going to be like, none of this makes sense. If you're a thinking person, the official story of everything they told you about World War I will make zero sense at all, unless you know the history I'm telling you about. They were thinning the herd over there. Some of it got out of their hands, especially with the Bolshevik Revolution. And that's a whole, man, I probably ought to do a whole nother podcast just talking about this kind of history. But anyway, that's exactly what's going on right now. When the U.S. blew up the oil lines from Russia into Germany, folks, you don't really even know. A lot of folks don't even really know what that did to Europe, all of Europe, but primarily Germany. When those lines blew up, that was like the opening salvo of the next war. And what Europe is doing right now, the European Union, they are doing everything they possibly can to create war with Russia because they need to thin the herd in a big, big way. Everybody over there is practically bankrupt. Sorry for taking so much time on this because this is actually good news in my view. Everybody over there is practically bankrupt. They're right on the edge of it, and they want Russia to initiate the first opening salvo. Russia's smart. Best chess players in the world for a reason. They're not going to be the ones to do it, but there may be a false flag, and of course they blame Russia. But the fact that our Pentagon severs communications with Germany military and NATO is a good sign because it's kind of saying that we're not signing on for this. Because, of course, we got our own little catastrophes that we're trying to, create and put out all at the same time. Sorry about the long-winded way around, but I had to provide a little historical construct that wasn't in that article. Okay, some other good news here. Coffee waste transformed into stronger, greener concrete in Australian breakthrough. Check this out. Son, you've heard of hempcrete, right?
Yeah.
Okay, people making a version of concrete out of hemp. Well, they figured out over there in Australia that they are making concrete 26% stronger by using the hulls of coffee. And folks, this is really the title of this show. Remember the 10 waste streams that you ought to reconsider? Think about this. You got coffee beans. I used to roast my own coffee. Son, you remember those days?
Oh, yeah. It was the first time I realized coffee had like a fruity aspect to it. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, pretty much every coffee you buy out there, if you don't buy it green for the most part, it's already kind of rancid, but you don't know that if that's the only coffee you've ever had. Unless it's roasted, you don't really know what real coffee tastes like. Anyway, the stuff coming off of there, I used to do it in a popcorn popper out back, and I would roast the coffee, and then you get all this chaff that kind of flies off of there. Well, that's what they're taking, and they're putting it into the concrete, and what it's doing is unbelievable. I mean, to this day, we really don't know how the Romans made their concrete, which was able to cure underwater. Man, you talk about the problem being the solution. So what are some other things that you could do with these coffee, the hulls that come off the coffee, son?
I mean, you could use it as like, obviously, compost. You could use it for compost. You could use it as, depending on what scale you're at, because that hull is kind of fine. Depending on the scale, you could use it like as a mulch layer within like seedlings because it is fine. You could use it in your garden. You could use it around your trees. I mean, it's a carbon. So anything a carbon would apply to, you could use it as, I mean, it would be probably the best smelling like chicken bedding you could probably find. There's a bunch of different options with that.
Exactly. And folks, we're going to be covering some of that here in a little bit, but honestly, I mean, this is the prime example where, yeah, you can go out there, use stone as aggregate and all this other stuff, but man, people are out there doing some incredible stuff, things that most of you have never heard of, like hempcrete and a number of others, man.
Aircrete is another one.
Aircrete. Yeah. There's a lot of cool things that are going on out there. And just imagine if we didn't fixate ourselves upon warfare, imagine what we could do. I mean, the problems we could solve. I mean, all the wonderful things we could absolutely do. All right. So number 3 for good news story is this one right here. Winter superfoods you should be eating instead of eating festive junk. Now, this article jumped out at me because number 1, I'm eating more in alignment with circadian health. And I've talked about that. So right now, nearly everything I eat, and I mean nearly everything, is within my zip code. I'm talking everything, even the fat. The only thing that isn't in my zip code is the salt I eat from Dr. Will. That is the only thing I eat that isn't in my zip code. I mean, I'm sure there's other things. Even the fat I eat is fat that I rendered, okay, maybe a couple of years ago. So that's why this article really, really jumped out to me, because trying to, within this Sovereign Health Summit, that's one of the things I'm wanting a lot of folks to really get introduced to is experts in circadian health. And they're going to be there, at least one for sure, maybe two. This is of profound value to me, especially when you consider, obviously, everybody knows you shouldn't be on an all sugar diet. But look, man, some of the things that you could be eating here and could be doing some wonderful things right now are things like blackberries, where you got great antioxidant. In fact, anything blue, red, purple, any of those colors, man, you ought to be trying to eat as many of them as you possibly can. So pears, a lot of these things, like I was talking about the apples a little bit ago, I would say they're a cholesterol fighter. That's what the article says, but they're good for so many different reasons. I mean, fiber being chief among them. Pears, a digestive aid. Cranberries, can't really do those here, but elderberries, immune booster. Those are all things that you could be investing in right now in a big way in terms of your health. So that were my good news. Those are my good news articles right there. All right, with that said, we're going to go into my man, Eric Sider.
Hey, Eric Sider here with your Pimpcast tip of the day. Today's tip: the revolution will not be in the countryside. After discovering permaculture, most of us dream of creating our own Garden of Eden in the country. I know I did, and still do, but I feel compelled to remain in the suburbs to try and influence as many people as possible. Most of us live in the suburbs. They are the epitome of the permaculture principle: make the least change for the greatest possible effect. The suburbs are all about resource management. The garbage man should be the most important job in the world. In their current form, the suburbs are the worst example of humanity, but they can easily be the ultimate example of our capability for creating positive change. We think of ourselves as separate from nature, but we are nature, and no other species has the ability to change the environment more than we do. We can build amazing, life-rich, and nutrient-dense soil in the suburbs in no time at all, simply by redirecting surplus waste and proper mainframe design. It's all well and good to create paradise in the country, but where do you think the hordes of people in the cities are going to go once the food stops coming in? The suburbs are the front lines of this war. If we transform the suburbs, they can be the buffer to absorb the fleeing mobs, like how the mangroves buffer the storm surge. But if we lose the suburbs, we lose everything. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Eric Sider if you're in need of permaculture t-shirts, the official pimp gear of the Pimpcast, a remote permaculture consultation and design. Head over to ericsider.com. And for more information on my permaculture community group and how we can all transform the suburbs into abundant, resilient communities of true wealth, head over to permaculturefairoaks.org.
That's my dog right there, man. I'm starting to wonder if Eric's got this house bugged, dude. How does he know the perfect segue before every single show that we go into? My goodness.
I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe he just has this plugged into like some AI program that predicts the next episodes or something like that. Man, I don't know.
I mean, this is really mind-boggling, because we're actually going to talk about some of what he's getting into there. My goodness, man, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there are so many different things. And William and I, right before the podcast, we were talking about my grandbaby and how her favorite part of the day or the week is when the trash guy shows up in the big truck.
Yeah. And she talks about it for the rest of the day. Like, because the trash guy, actually it's a lady. She knows that like June, my daughter, is waiting at the window, if she's not already outside, waiting for that trash truck to come by, because they drive past us first and then they come down the other side of the street and then they come get our trash. And it's her favorite part of the day. And she'll talk about it for the rest of the day. She'll be like, big truck, trash truck. And then they'll honk at her and stuff like that. It's a whole event.
Yeah, but it can be the best thing in the world or the worst. I mean, folks, we're throwing out such incredible, wonderful things. And we're going to come to that in a minute, but I don't want to blow it all right now. Anyway, Mycronic Silver, 10% off with promo code PERMA. You know, the very people that were on with, had Jeff Adams, the owner and proprietor of Mycronic Silver. I had him on my show, and folks, there's a reason I didn't have him on YouTube, because his information is so bombshell. It'll blow your mind in so many different ways. But if we were to say any of that on YouTube, I guarantee they'll scrub the whole thing. And that just happened to T right now. And all they're doing is talking about an element on the periodic table. How about that? But if you talk about how those elements can, help you out, then all of a sudden you got a problem, folks. You're starting to see a pattern here. Anyway, Mycronic Silver, 10% off with promo code PERMA. I totally back them. Use the product every single day. Excuse me. I know they're coming out with a deodorant here before too long, but that oleazon, I think that's how you say it. You can use that until you get the real stuff. So anyway, Mycronic Silver, 10% off with promo code PERMA. All right. So covering up with what Eric was talking about, and then also the coffee story, man, I wanted to do, and William said he was thinking when I was coming up with show ideas, he was saying he was thinking the very same thing too. So 10 waste streams that you should be capturing. Folks, right off the bat, sorry, y'all, I've got a little bug in my throat right here. Right off the bat, I'm going to talk about, well, I guess we'll go back and forth. So carbon rich, I don't know what William wrote down and he doesn't know what I wrote down, and we do it this way for a reason. So we have overflows in case one of us covers something that nobody else or one of the others didn't. So I could really go on and on. Folks, I did write the book Scrap Steading, so I'm, kind of know what I'm talking about on this stuff. And a lot of other people in this space have, done serious work on this topic as well. But right off the bat, your carbon-rich yard wastes are one of the biggest things that people just throw away, put in the dumpster. I mean, fall is one of my favorite times of year because everybody else does all my work for me. I can just drive through Asheville. I can look at every lawn. Okay. Yeah, I'll take every single, you don't have to wait for the trash truck. Everybody's putting this stuff in a landfill. Man, forget a bunch of that, man. All those leaves are the perfect thing for your compost. Number one, whatever junk that may have been sprayed on the lawn or whatever, by the time it's filtered up through that trees, those leaves are going to be largely pretty darn clean. So leaves are one of my biggest things that I love for a compost pile. Grass clippings, depending on the hedge, maybe some head prunings, pine needles, depending on what you're doing there. Use as much carbon and mulch and fungal starter, worm bedding. I mean, leaf mold. There's so many different ways you can go about this, but don't dismiss and allow all your neighbors to do your work for you. All right, son.
Well, that is exactly what got me thinking about doing this topic on the podcast too. Was I just got done, like, the leaves are hitting the ground here. They are some of you guys' places, the leaves are already cleaned up and gone, but they're just now starting to hit the ground here. And it's just a fantastic time. Now, also, in addition to the leaves, this is when, if you live in a neighborhood where people have landscape crews come through, this is when the landscape crews come through and they deadhead everything. So anything that's dead, that is like dying back or anything like that, this is when they go through and clean the landscape beds and all that type of stuff. So if you see them working in your community, just let them know, hey, you don't have to pay to take that to the green landfill or anything like that. Just bring it over to my house, and there's free compost material, bedding if it's dry, all that type of stuff for you. But what I was gonna do, and this is what I do when I need manure and everything, is use the neighbor's cattle pasture manure. Go and talk to your local farmer. If you know somebody who raises cattle in a pretty clean way, fairly clean way, go up to them and ask them, like, hey, do you mind if I go shovel some manure out of your pasture? I'm going to be using it for compost. Every time you use the excuse compost, nobody has ever had an issue with it. Everybody has thought it's been somewhat cool, and that'll come into play with later points as well. But if you're looking to make compost and you don't have a manure aspect or a ruminant manure aspect, or you're just trying to diversify the amount of manure that's in your compost, go hit up your local cattle farmer, your rancher, or whatever it may be. And just ask them to go. I mean, I've cleaned out horse stalls before just so I could get the compost before. I just went up to somebody I knew had horses, said, hey, when's the last time you guys wormed? And then asked them if I could come clean out some stalls in exchange for the manure, which is doing them a service and then also doing me a service as well. I'm getting a manure I didn't have before.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of a lot of those things because these days people will downright even lie to you, telling you, I can't even tell you how many people, lie and tell me they're not. Like, if you got goats, I know you're giving them dewormer. Okay.
Yeah.
But I've come across people, at least on, when I was trying to source some stuff before when we first got here, and I know they were lying to me. So, man, I'm real funny about the manure I get, and I try to make sure I get it. Well, Ben and Denise is one of my primary sources, but I know that I can rely on them to be honest with me. So, all right. So for me, the next one is, and this is going to seem I'm trying to think of things a little bit off the beaten path, folks, that a lot of you maybe haven't thought of. I'll tell you one, that this is a waste stream that I think you should be capturing in so many different ways. And I'm not sure how much I can actually say here in this platform because I use it also for health reasons, and that's urine. And I was going to suggest human ore, but I'm not even going to talk about that. I'm just going to talk about urine for a minute. Folks, I don't waste my urine. Yeah, you're saying, what does he mean by that? I don't waste my urine. I pee in gallon jugs. You hear me?
In the garage, and you better knock before you go out in the garage, or you're gonna hear, "Hey, I'm peeing," and he didn't give anybody any kind of warning.
Or you're going to get a Loch Ness sighting. I don't know what to tell you. So one way or the other, I do not waste my urine. And I think, honestly, with all the examination, I've really thought about maybe writing a book on this topic, really. Whether you're using it for wound healing, good night, man. Check out all the work Dr. Group has done on the topic in terms of stem cells. People are spending thousands and thousands and thousands of bucks, and maybe you don't have to. Now, I got to be very careful about how I do that, how I talk about it. But I'm serious, y'all. Let's say you got a stump out in the pasture. Go out there, drill a bunch of holes in it. And let's say you don't want to spend the money to go out there and have somebody come out with a stump grinder, and it's just driving you crazy. Number one, if you can cut it down low to the ground and just let your sheep or cattle coppice it, it's tree hay. Why not? Leave it there if it's not a problem. But let's just say you don't like that stump, or it's in the front yard, you had a tree chopped down. Use this experiment and tell me if it doesn't work better than anything on the market. Go out there, and I really wish I'd have filmed this. Take your drill, put a bunch of holes in that stump. And I use a 1 foot 1/4 inch bit. And then I'll take my unit bit and run it down afterwards in each one of those holes because it makes something of a funnel. Take your urine and pour it on top of that stump for about a year. And as far as the frequency, I'd say once a week is probably adequate. William, what happens when you take a nitrogen-rich urine and put it on a carbon source? What are you doing?
Well, you're taking not only a nitrogen-rich, but like a nitrogen ratio of 1 to 1. And then you're applying it to something that's like a carbon ratio of like 500, 800 to 1. It's going to start breaking down. That's what compost is the combination of, there's microbes involved as well, but it's the combination of carbon and nitrogen. And Dad, you actually did film the video on it. We filmed it when we first moved to North Carolina, and we cut down that tree that was growing into the barn.
Yeah, but I didn't show the after. When I went over there, I just kicked the doggone thing over, and it's gone. And I did it with every stump out there. And I wish I was just doing it. And I was like, you big dummy, I should have filmed this and showed folks what happened. Yeah, I learned that from an old timer from way back. So folks, why are you wasting your urine? Put it in your compost pile. That's another way, like William said, it's all nitrogen. When you're putting it on a stump out there, you're composting in place. And it's far safer, far better for every single thing out there. Like I said, I pee in jugs, and I ain't afraid to tell you that now. In the middle of the night, I'm not going to stumble out into the cold garage and go, pee into a jug. I'm going to use a toilet in that case. But also, I'm saving water in the process. I don't waste my urine. I use it in my compost. And then if you look at the work of people like Dr. Edward Group, you'll find out that when you pee around the mulch rings on your trees or in your garden, Marjorie Wildcraft has done a lot of work on this, talking about that very same thing, where she thins it out, and then we'll use it as a, in her garden. If you look at Dr. Group's work, you'll find out that when you do it in your compost is now tailor making. I'm simplifying it, folks. I'm not going to get too far in the weeds on this, but your compost is now making things that are engineered for you. That's why a composting toilet is pretty handy, because you could capture all the urine from everybody in the house, whether it's the guy, the girl, and then put it all out there, and everybody's getting the benefit of it, folks. Everybody's been taught to believe that urine is the worst thing in the world. No, it depends, I guess, on how you're using it. So I don't waste mine. And like I said, I could quite literally write a book on it, but concerning the health reasons on that, I can't even talk about it, folks. So I'm just going to have to leave that one there.
Amy B had a question. How prevalent is wormer in cattle? And that is going to largely depend if it's beef or dairy, and do they have a barn? Are they overwintering in a barn? Where I am, if some of the ranchers that I've talked to are honest with me, and you can kind of guarantee this just banking on the laziness of people around here, they probably aren't doing any extra work than what they have to, or spending any extra money than what they have to around here. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the same case for you. So dairy, higher likelihood, beef, lower likelihood, and depending on whether or not they overwinter in a barn, it all just kind of depends. Like whenever I go and get manure and I'm getting it from cattle pasture, I can typically guarantee that if they did get wormed, it was in the spring and it's out of their system by the end of summer. So that's kind of what I like hedge against with cattle. Now horses, almost 100% guaranteed there's going to be wormer in horses. The next one I had is
Son, before you do, let me just cut you off for a second there, because this was a pretty important one. NecroKitty says that reminds me of the story of how you soak your seeds in your mouth before you plant the seeds, because it knows exactly. That's exactly the point, and your urine works exactly the same way. I really wish I could go. This is why we're going to have to do certain shows exclusively on Rumble, because folks, if you knew what I knew about urine, I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud. If you knew what I've discovered, not discovered, but the study I've done on urine, you're going to find out there's a reason why. I mean, all the way back to the Roman Empire, man, they saved urine to even tan leather. I mean, there's so many uses for it, and we're just pushing it down the drain. Even your well, I'm not going to get into human ore because I just don't have enough time for that. I'm sorry, son. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Now, Zegley had a good point. If you are on meds, you need to be careful, because some of those, especially the ones that deal with like mental health or unhealth, whatever it may be, can accumulate in the food. So especially when you get into things like lettuces and things like that. So if you're on meds, be careful. And also, if you're a guy, you have the unique ability of being able to pee around some animals that could be prey on your farm and deter predators. So there's that benefit too.
Well, in those cases also, that's exactly, if you're on any kind of meds, I would put it in a compost pile. I wouldn't be doing, or on stumps. Either one will work. Like I said, folks, prove me wrong. Go out there, put it on some stumps and find out what happens. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the next one, this was actually an idea that I got from, it was a festival. It was a while back. It was in South Carolina. And there was one vendor there that sold one thing. And what they did was that they would go to, like, not saying this is exactly what you should do, but you can take this idea, twist it, and then run with it if you wanted to. But what they did was clean out like Tyson and Pilgrim chicken houses. And they took everything that they cleaned out. They got paid to clean them out. They took everything that they cleaned out, and then they would compost it, and then they would sell like large quantities, like those ton bags, like those big landscape bags that you can get, or sometimes you can buy feed in these size bags. They hold, like, I think typically a ton, and they would sell their compost by the ton. Now, is it as good as what you can make at home? No, but I guarantee you it's far better than anything that they're selling in the stores. And they had some of their testimonies were pretty doggone good. Seemed like people had some pretty decent results out of that. But you can go to people's farms, offer to clean it out, maybe even sell it as a service. Like, hey, I notice you guys are doing, like, let's say you went to Joel Salatin's farm. Maybe that size farm, obviously not Joel Salatin, because he recognizes the value in that waste stream. But you could go to somebody's farm and say, hey, I'll clean out all of your animal, areas for X amount of money. And then you can take that waste stream, compost it at your house, make really, really good high quality compost, and then sell that compost. And if you sell it even close to what Dr. Elaine Ingham is selling her compost for, that's what is it, somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000 per yard?
That's about what you'd be getting the way she breaks it down. And looking at it under the microscope, it's okay. I mean, it's not as good as the stuff we make, but
Yeah. Yeah, so that was mine. Was cleaning out other people's farms and turning it into compost, turning that waste stream into a compost, and then getting paid to clean it out, and then getting paid for the compost that you make with it.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a 2-for-1 on this one, and I'm gonna say kitchen scraps, but not just kitchen scraps. I'm talking like, veggie peels and stuff like that, coffee grounds, fruit scraps. I mean, obviously the obvious things about it, like feeding chickens worms. Some people are going to do black soldier fly larva. To me, that the juice isn't worth the squeeze. But yay, if that's what you're into, knock yourself out. So if you can do that at the house, what's to keep you from going down to Chipotle and doing what I've done before? And I've said right here on this podcast, if you're okay, so just look at your kitchen scraps the same way they would. And if you make the right deals and make the right relationships, or go to colleges out there, folks, man, I've got so much stuff flying at me that I had to turn folks down. That's how crazy it got. So you can take those kitchen scraps. Who said it's got to be your kitchen? It could be a restaurant. I like Chipotle because they don't use any GMO. So you could take those beans, the rice, all that stuff. There is not an omnivore on your place that if you're doing some of this stuff, that you should have to spend a dime on. That's how we're able to raise our layers for free. That's how we're able to raise our meat birds for free. That's how we're able to raise our pigs for free. So we've done it over and over and over again. And folks, it doesn't have to be laborious. You can, if you got a day job, you go there, you just make relations where you just go by a couple of times a week. Think outside the box. One of the big places I've talked about in the past, and it's a big one, is definitely using shelters. Because they're the last, after the shelter has it, it's got to go in the dumpster. So make a deal with those folks. It ain't that hard to do, folks. So use those kitchen scraps. You can be saving a pile of money. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
Now, as far as like building materials, look at what Earthship has done using the waste streams of just like earth. They take things like tires and they pack them full of earth, turn it into a 300-pound brick, and they build houses with it. They also use things like glass bottles and use them in their concrete matrix walls. So like if you need to build a concrete wall, you can save a ton on the price of concrete just by doing like a honeycomb pattern using glass bottles and everything. They can either be exposed or non-exposed. It all depends on how you want to design the house. But use tires. Like they built Earthship in one of the islands in Indonesia, and they built it. It was an uninhabited island. And they built it with the tires that they found on the island, just from it washing up on shore. They built this house basically with the trash that washed up on shore on an uninhabited island. So you can use other people's waste streams for building materials. Also, going back to Eric's point earlier, or the point that you had brought up that Eric had made of the trash guys being, or did he say that earlier?
Yeah, he said the most important person should be the most important person in the suburbs.
Right. So where's the trash guy bringing the material to? Go to the landfill and just find out how much usable stuff is actually at the landfill. Do some dumpster diving. Whenever I was up there at Earthship, there was this Australian dude who kept wanting to go dumpster diving, and nobody would go with him. And I went with him, and we found like cases of bananas that were completely fine. There was no issues with the bananas. They were completely fine. Cases of them. We found an electric drill. We were finding all kinds of things doing dumpster diving at night. Yeah, do some dumpster diving, especially so let's say you're looking for like some lumber, go to a construction site dumpster. I guarantee you there's so much material thrown away because the people building the house didn't pay for the material, so they don't really care. They always order more than what they need. They don't care. The only thing that's being picked up at a construction site and being used for something else is copper. Everything else is being thrown away. There was boxes and boxes of framing and roofing nails that I found at construction sites before. Full strips for like a nail gun that were just like they were done building the house, so they left the box there. And yeah, I mean, you can find all kinds of building materials. Now, pallets have become a little bit harder to come across lately as far as like free and available to take. Because a lot of people, like Tractor Supply, for example, they'll take all the unbroken pallets and then they'll sell them to somebody else. So they're using it to bring money back into the store. But you'll notice that there's going to be a stack of pallets by the dumpster that have like a broken rail or something like that. Even though the rest of the pallet's going to be fine, they have that one broken rail. They can't sell that back. So go. I mean, you can either do it at night or you can go talk to the manager or something like that and say, hey, I want the pallets that are by the dumpster, or just do it. I mean, just
Yeah,
go
well, speaking of
ask for
pallets,
forgiveness.
I was working at a place in Texas where we had 4x6 heat treated lumber that we were bringing in all this switchgear, electrical switchgear on, and they would stack these things up as high as the whole doggone building. And I was like, man, what's anybody doing? They said, well, every once in a while, some old timer will come out here and get them. I said, can I get them? They were like, yeah. And this lumber on there, folks, it would blow. It was like #1 lumber that they had used. I couldn't even believe it. So I was out there every spare minute I could, and I'm taking these things apart. Now I needed an impact gun to go out there and take, because they had some, and then the screws in there. I mean, good night. You can make a fortune on just the heavy duty lag bolts I was pulling out of there. Anyway, all these beds that we have out back, they were made out of that same lumber, and they're still there right now. So now I'm replacing them, but the point being is that, William's point is definitely solid. All right,
hey, real quick, that there's a bunch of people in the chat that are saying, we'll get arrested. Dumpster diving is illegal now. Catch me.
Yeah.
Catch me.
Yeah. I'm there. Folks, I said it before. I don't obey unjust laws. I don't obey them. So just send my mail to the county jail. I'm just not going to obey. If it is I'm going to count on some jury nullification to get me off the hook. And I'm going to make them have a trial for jumping in a dumpster, for doing a victimless crime, what they call a crime. I'm not playing along. You can do what you want, but I don't obey unjust laws. I don't. So that doesn't apply to me. And depending on who you are, it may not apply to you as well. All right. I know we're getting long in the tooth here. So rainwater and roof runoff. So many of us are just, it just blew my mind when I was out there working on an Earthship in Arizona, how almost nobody, and I mean almost nobody, catches the water off of their roofs. And I'm like, you're in a desert. Everybody was on a well or rural water out there, but nobody was catching any rain. And when it does rain there, it's usually it's quite an ordeal. And what do they do with that water? If you all through Arizona, they got these giant, I don't know what you call them, but catchment things. And all they do is take the water and divert it away. It is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. I have never seen dumber in my life. There was only one person I met who was doing some serious permaculture out there in Arizona, and he was capturing every drop of water that landed on his property. So tanks, swales, ponds, drainage basins. Look, even though a lot of this water coming from the sky, I don't know what's in it, and it's probably not wonderful. But these days, you better have every backup to your backup. All right, go ahead, son.
The next one I had was, speaking of the watershed, tapping into that during heavy rain events for irrigation. Like, everybody has those, the city easement ditches where their driveway meets the road, for the most part, depending on where you live. Everybody has those. I was thinking about this, looking at the demonstration site. I was like, I wonder if I could, and still making sure it's not flooding or anything like that. I wonder if I could like dam up the culvert that goes under the driveway a little bit, back flood it a little bit, and then push that water into the swales on the property. If the elevations could work out, you could make that happen. So where you're like, you're back flooding that front ditch, which gets, I mean, honestly, they do so little maintenance out there on those county roads. It's going to back flood anyways, because those ditches are a nutrient trap. They're going to capture leaves. Also a good place to get some waste streams, leaves and everything. But you could dam that up a little bit, make it look a little incognito, just dump a bunch of leaves down there, dam it up a little bit, dig a channel so where your elevation is lower than it's acting as the spillway for that dam, and then you can use it to irrigate. I would do swales in the form of like tree systems, and I wouldn't necessarily irrigate directly with a garden, just because you don't know what's hitting that road, what has been spilled upstream or anything like that, just out of an abundance of caution. Or you could have that water go through a biofilter before hitting your garden, and then you could just directly irrigate your garden if you wanted to. But that's a ton of water that flows through that area that nobody's doing anything with. Like Dad was saying, they're just shooting it off. But that's also irrigation that the county put in for you that you can tap into. And then maybe find a way to hide it every time they do inspections, like once or twice a year, where they just drive those roads and kind of check everything out. But yeah, that would be a cool experiment that I would like to try someday.
All right, a little while ago, I talked about, hey, it's that time of year when we're running a fireplace. Not the most efficient way to do it, but my fireplace, basically the way it's set up, I got a buck stove and it heats pretty much the whole house. And if you're upstairs, believe me, man, you're going to feel like oh my goodness, you're going to feel like you're in Dante's Inferno, depending, how this thing's running. So anyway, yeah, this thing. So what are you going to have? You're going to have charcoal. You're going to have waste. You're going to have ash. So what do you do with that? Man, there's a whole lot of crazy and wonderful things you could do with that. I know we're getting long but one of the things that the Amish do is that when they're sowing their crops, they have a little bag and it basically, like, you'll see this little powder coming out. That's wood ash. That's how they put a lot of the minerals back into the soil, because these trees bioaccumulate a lot of this stuff. And then when you burn them, what's left behind? That's what's in a lot of that ash. Another thing is it makes a really good dust bath for your chickens. Now, you could make it exclusively out of that, but I'll tell you what I do every time I clean out the fireplace. It's still hot when I do it because I want those embers in there and I want them to cool off, because once they cool off, I take this little grate system and I put it over a wheelbarrow and I capture all the dust down below, and then all that charcoal that's in there, I'll reuse to fire up the fireplace, and it does it like lickety split. Instead of going in there with kindling and doing all that kind of stuff, man, I can just put a couple of sticks in there, set them on fire. Once they catch that charcoal on fire, it's off to the races. I mean, I can put in big logs in no time at all. So that's a couple of things that you can do right there. I guess that's my last one. What do you got, son?
The last one I had is go to a sawmill. There's now here in DeKalb, Texas, there's a old historic circular, like big circular sawmill that's on the other side of town. You can go there, and what's cool about using the sawmill shavings versus like cabinet makers sawdust is that the shavings won't create anaerobic clumps within your compost. But you can go there, you can go to specifically this one in DeKalb, and you can go there and get a bunch of hardwood shavings. They do like, they have softwood shavings, they do hardwood shavings. Basically every tree that they mill, they just kind of sweep it up and put it into a pile, and they have a mountain of sawdust shavings out there. But like the cool thing about the shavings is that it's a high carbon input for your compost. So it's like 500 to 1, 800 to 1. And the issue with using those high carbon inputs is that there's not enough surface area in order to break it down quickly. That's what's cool about the shavings, is that you increase the surface area of those high carbon inputs and you allow more nitrogen to interact with those high carbon inputs. It's still not going to break down as fast as like some of the other carbon inputs that you could put, like the lower carbon inputs that you could put in, but it's still going to break down very, very quickly compared to like wood chips or wood chunks or even pine shavings, because you've increased the surface area and you're also getting it before it's been treated with anything. So if you live near a sawmill, or if you know anybody who has a sawmill, ask if you could come collect some of the sawdust or the sawmill shavings, and you could use it for animal bedding after you dry it out. You could use it for compost inputs. You could use it for mulch in your garden. You could do it for anything. Just remember, if you're putting it directly on the soil, make sure it's on the surface of the soil. And you're not like tilling it into the soil, because that's when the carbon will rob the nitrogen from the soil for like 7 years or something like that. It's going to be a long time.
Yeah, y'all, there's so many things out there. And honestly, we could have made this program 5 hours long. And then honestly, there's a number of other folks, in the chat here that I guarantee are, I mean, like I said, I got a list that's much longer and I can go, way. There are so many things that when you're in this space, I've talked about it before, that every single legitimate farm out there has a scrap pile. They got what looks like a junk pile to everybody else, but you got it there because it serves a purpose. I've never seen a legitimate farm, or anybody that's doing something that didn't have a junk pile. And these are some of the things where, there's a reason we have it that way, and we want to definitely work on those things. And in so many different ways, with money being as tight as it is for so many of us, inflation going through the freaking roof. Sorry, y'all. I don't know why this dog just started tripping right now that I'm near the end of this thing. Yeah, like Pete says, yeah, it's called a boneyard. That's exactly what it is. So yeah, when you got those boneyards out there, y'all, it can mean all the difference in the world, especially like William was talking about a minute ago, you know, ain't nobody leaving copper laying around, especially not right now. Copper is the poor man's silver. So there's a whole lot of things you can do with that copper and a lot of wonderful things where it can be repurposed. I mean, there's so many different ways, whether it's electroculture. Man, I'm not even going to get into it all right now because there's just so many different ways we can go about this. Homesteading Twins in the house. Just saw you guys pop up here. All right, y'all. William, anything to add?
I mean, just keep, whenever, next time you go through town, just keep your eyes open for like potential waste streams. That's how most of this list was comprised. It was just like experience of like going through like, I need this. Is anybody's waste stream going to fulfill this? Or just like encountering waste streams. Typically, like this is an example of the permaculture. The problem is the solution. Somebody else's problem can be a solution for you.
Yeah. Homestead Twin says, I got so much junk, I'm building a shed just to put all of it in next year. No, I totally get it. I mean, that's exactly how a lot of us roll. You know, people roll up on your house and they might think the Clampetts live there, but there is a reason a lot of us have these piles around because they are useful. And folks, I got a feeling that in the coming years that I think we are going to be a less and less wasteful society because I think we're going to have to be. I think we're going to have to reuse and redo and just rethink everything that we do right now because there's just so much waste. Now, I'm not some red diaper doper baby out here that's telling you, you know, cow flatulence. I'm not into all that. But what I am saying is we are wasteful. Whether it sits down, one of my best friends, I never understood it. They would order a pizza when we were, I think you were a little son. They would order your Uncle Dion. I'll just shout him out. I'm going to put him on blast right here. They would order pizza, and then all the pizza they didn't eat, they'd just leave it sit overnight and then throw it in the trash the next day. I was like, man, when I was growing up, man, we didn't waste nothing, man. The quickest way to get the skin war off your body was to waste food and let my dad catch you. And he did not play. And, so he gave us a real respect. There's a lot of things my dad didn't do right, but I tell you what, one of the cool things is that he didn't care how much you ate. As long as it was bread and butter. No, he didn't care as long as he said, I don't care. You can eat as much as you want, but I better not ever catch you wasting anything. And that always stuck with me. And I've always lived that way, man. They would sit here and cook like there wasn't, but two of them and their kids were little. They would sit here and cook 4 ribeyes because that's what came in the pack when they were buying it. And then they would just throw the rest. Who throws away? I don't even understand this level of waste, but that's what they would do. It was just pretty mind-boggling when you get down to brass tacks. All right, y'all. Hopefully some of this was a blessing to you. Man, I really want to thank everybody for checking this out today. And like I said, if anybody wants to see a cage match, you know who to reach out to. All right, y'all. So I guess that fits in with our tagline. I guess it only makes sense. Till next time, y'all, you know the deal. Stay alert.
Stay alive.
Nature, the knowledge ring, roots that run deep, wisdom from soul, permaculture dream. Let the ideas unfold. I'm grooving with the truth. Feeling nature's food. Who's got the answers? All we need to do. Listen to the earth, they got us through. Let's see the change. Watch the world spin from the smallest sprout to the harmony begin in the cycle of life. For the magic's alive to the